It's showtime.
In God we trust here at Philomath Films.
So far away.
No sugarcoating or pulling punches, just real talk. You're watching Talking Real with Feel.
Let's start with the truth. You know what people hate more than being exposed? Being ignored. You gave them the rope. They chose to hang themselves with it. You stood there, watching their hands shake while they tied the knot. That's not weakness. That's discipline. That's what makes you dangerous. You chose to let the silence do the talking. And trust me, silence screams in ways words never could. Monsters don't announce themselves. They emerge. No emotions, no explanations, just a void where your warmth used to be. That's not weakness. That's strategy. You didn't have to lift a finger. You didn't raise your voice. You just disappeared and let the absence do the damage. You want to change? You want to rise? Change ain't pretty. It's war, ugly, brutal, and lonely. You've got to kill the old you first. No mercy, no hesitation. You burn that version of yourself to the ground and watch the flames consume everything you used to be. The hard, bitter truth. You are your biggest enemy. Not them. No, it's you. You're the one who let their words get inside your head, who let their actions define your worth. You see, people, they don't care about you. They care about what you can give them. Your time, your energy, your loyalty. And when they've sucked you dry, they toss you aside like yesterday's trash. That's the cycle. That's the reality. That's what the world does. They feast on the loyal and glorify the ones who walk away.
Okay, people, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if it's your first time here. I apologize for the long intro, but given the week we had last week, I think it's just fine for that. Back to Talking Real, episode 7. Last time we talked about silence and how that can be an advantage, especially for a man. I'm not finished talking about silence yet. I'm going to speak a little bit more on silence and what it's meant to me. So 3 years after the accident, no phone calls from my wife, no return text messages, no letters in the mail, nothing, unless it was about my children and I asked a specific question. It's been a very hard 3 years. It's been a very hurtful 3 years. A very painful 3 years. I have been looking for validation, a reason that would validate the pain, because I desperately needed that. Waiting for her to tell me something. Give me her reason. When my wife started the silent treatment at the beginning of these 3 years after I was dropped off, you feel like you don't matter. You go through an array of emotions. One of them being you feel like you don't matter. Not only do you not matter, but then you're realizing this is the end to your story with her. These videos are me talking honestly, trying to solve things, trying to understand, trying to find meaning, purpose. When I felt like I didn't matter and that we were coming to an end, I didn't quite feel that way at the start. In the start, I felt anger, resentment, pain, yes, but resentment and anger went along with that pain. I'm going to make this video and tell you what I think. Let me set this up for you, okay? So 20 years, My wife has always been very quiet and very reserved. I think I've told you in previous videos, I can count the number of times she's cried in 20 years on my 2 hands. And it's 9. I can tell you it's 9 times. I felt like it was ending. I felt like I wasn't important, that I didn't matter. And now that I was physically broken, didn't receive a dollar, couldn't work, couldn't get out of bed, I was very angry. I thought I was discarded. I thought once I became not useful, that I was thrown away. Again, that brings an array of emotions. Obviously, the relationship between me and my wife is not going to end. The marriage may end, but the relationship will never end. We have 2 children. And as responsible parents, we're going to have to conduct ourselves as so. So that's completely false. I'm just telling you what it felt like at the time. Now, having said that, I don't know right now as to what capacity that we will play in each other's lives. What I can tell you for a fact is it's not an ending of any sorts. If anything, it's a beginning for me. My transformation and my evolution as to where I'm at right now. This was nothing I had not experienced in my life. I've experienced silent treatment, and we use it as a weapon in marriage very well. So the silent treatment wasn't unfamiliar to me. What was the consecutive time that it went on for. That had never happened. Hence, making me angry, making me want answers, making me want that closure or answers or reasoning behind what was taking place and why it was taking place. Once I realized that she wasn't taking my calls, she would only return a text message if it was a specific question about our children, I knew something was different. I didn't know what, didn't know why, but I knew something was different just by her not doing any of that. The second and third conclusion that this was completely different and going in a direction I had not anticipated, the second and third came simultaneously back to back. That came when I had my stepfather drive me up there so I could drop my presents off that they had bought my children for Christmas, seeing how I was still no money and couldn't work. And at first, we drove right by her place of employment. I didn't see her vehicle, but I sent her a text and said I was coming up there. She sent me one back and said she's at the shop, so I pulled in. So the second and third came in a combo that one popped me in my nose and the other one knocked the breath out of me. But it was all at once, so that's cool. You know, I recovered quickly. But the second was she had a different vehicle, and I had no idea. Obviously, something married people would talk about, and I didn't have a clue. And when I walked in to deliver the gifts, she didn't have her wedding ring on her hand. So those two things came back to back. Because at first, or even though I just experienced that 2-hit combo, at that point, I was still confusing her silent treatment. Her silence is the exact same silent treatment and reservations that I've known up until this point in our marriage. Now realizing, of course, that she had already started her transformation. This wasn't the same old silence and reservation that I had seen before. I had to figure that out, understand why. Thinking about it for 3 years, I came to the conclusion, and it's taken me this long, and that sucks, it does. But I had not realized that yet. Now, when you reach the conclusion that this is the way that she deals with this, she had to do what she had to do to move on from where she was. And you have to respect the fact that she did what she had to do to be wherever she is today with herself. The silent treatment was a way for her to pick up the pieces, fix what was broken, and move on. Yeah, and move on. And it did hurt. And it did seem like I didn't matter and that she never cared for me. These are things that I felt. That's not what it was in reality. In reality, it was her fixing her problem and doing what she had to do to move on. Not because she didn't love me, and certainly not because I no longer love her. That's not the case. I think that's always going to be shared mutually to an extent. I mean, it may be circumstantial, but to the extent. The extended silent treatment that she had bestowed upon me was her way of simply healing and moving on. I know and I can see that now. Or even though it took me all 3 years, and it's taken me all this time to come to that conclusion, to be at the road I'm at right now, which sucks, don't get me wrong, that really sucks. But do you know what's worse than the first 3 years of that? What's worse than that? And not having a clue, and looking for a resolution, and looking for closure. What's worse than that? Nothing. This is much better than that. I mean, still sucks ass. Again, really, it still sucks ass. But that was worse. It's worse not knowing. I can smile, make this video, talk to you guys, or talk to myself in this phone and hope that somebody can get some type of knowledge out of this. I mean, okay, I get it, right? I finally understand. So I tell myself in my head. And I owe her a thank you. It's been a long 3 years. But I absolutely owe her a thank you. For the simple fact that whether she knows or not, whether this was intentional, on purpose, or just incidental, given the situation, I still owe her a thank you for it. And let me tell you why. That was a process I had to go through. Not an easy process, but a process. A process where she taught me that through her silence, life goes on, regardless. And I know that's very cliche. It's a very cliche thing to say. But those are some of the truest words, cliche or not. And me saying that simply means I'm not standing still anymore. I'm not trying to figure out. I'm not waiting on her reasons to find resolutions for myself. I'm not waiting to hear what she thinks in order to be more independent and start planning on where I'm going to go from here in the future. Knowing that she had started her own transformation into this phase, and it's probably well done by now, and at least is established with the same aspects, ratios of life as to what she wants to do. Knowing now that she was putting one foot in front of the other, very inspirational, very motivating to see that happen and say, I can do that. I know I can do that. So in essence, that really inspired me to move forward as well. In doing that, I'm sure that she's going to discover, just like I have, when you put yourself in that situation and you start to move forward, there's things that you're going to be better at, you're going to have strengths, you're going to have weaknesses, but you're also going to find out and how to improve on those weaknesses. These are things that you learn about yourself after the situation. You're both going to have to change. You're no longer codependent on one another. You're no longer in the same household, in the same marriage. So that's where you start to find out. And individually, you're going to learn differently, and you're going to learn at a different pace. Just to bring the video to an end, right? I'll tell you 3 things that I've learned in these 3 years. The first one is, I am no longer waiting to hear her reasons or her excuses or her opinions, seeking that closure. I can do that for myself. That comes from inside me, and I've done that. 2, I had just mentioned it, but 2 is your strengths and your weaknesses. You're going to be better and you're going to be worse. But either way, it's going to force you to look at that honestly in the mirror and figure out where you can improve and where you can't, what you need to strive for when it comes to that. And 3, you will realize, once you realize yourself self-worth. What comes from that? One, you no longer view yourself as you previously did. You don't have that perception of your former self. That's gone. Therefore, that raises and instills more confidence in you as a person. Once you get more confidence as a person, that in turn allows you to set standards, higher standards, in order for you to reach those. You speak to yourself and you think about yourself with more respect. These are the three things that came out of these 3 years so far. So when I started the video and I told you that I was looking for that rejection and that pain to be validated, I desperately needed that to be validated. It is. It is validated. You just have to be aware, know that your pain, however long it is, however much time you spend in that dark place, I don't know if it's going to hit you the way it hit me. I don't know if you're going to prosper from it. But the two things that I do have that I consider is validation from being in this place is growth. I've definitely grown as a person in many different facets. In wisdom, I have gotten wiser. I try to make better decisions. I try to think about things differently. So it's definitely spawned growth in wisdom. And for that, I have to be thankful. All right. That's going to be the end of Talking Real this time. I thank you guys for hanging out. I know there's a lot of places you could be doing a lot of things, watching a lot of people do other things, but you're here watching my video and I appreciate it. I will see you guys next time.
Well, apparently there's the Charlie Kirk Awards.
Hello and welcome to the 3rd annual Charlie Kirk Award for Young Master Debaters.
More and more young people today are learning to fight for America through master debation. We're here to honor the recent efforts of a brave young man who has been furiously master debating for the past several days.
Now, there's going to be a lot said about this, but on prime time on Comedy Central, so important, so impactful that South Park is highlighting. Watch it.
I'm sick of people stealing my stick. If anyone around here is going to be a master debater, it's me. So let's go. Who wants to debate the master debater? Let's go. You right there.
That's the stupidest haircut I've ever seen.
You are wrong. Leviticus 3:17 says it shall be a perpetual statute for your generations throughout all your dwellings. So you can shut up, baby. You just hate America and you love abortions.
Not only that, but Jeremiah 1:5, I made you in the womb. South Park gets this right. In fact, I think they've been watching a lot of Charlie Kirk videos. Watch.
Oh my God, what makes you think you have the right to say what I do with my body?
Let me ask you something. If a pregnant woman is killed and the baby dies too, why is the killer charged with a double homicide?
Well, because people have different beliefs.
It's not about belief, it's about truth. Science confirms life begins at conception. So yes, Jeremiah 1:5 says, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you.
Something inside